What's up, everyone? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 16 of the Patel Kumar Show. I'm your host, Shivam Patel, coming to you live from San Antonio, Texas. And my co-host, Mr. Kumar, coming to you live from Mumbai, India. So, Mr. Kumar, we have crowned the champ. The Bucks are the 2021 NBA champions. Giannis won the Finals MVP. What a series they had between the Bucks and the Suns, and we will be breaking down everything, every angle of the finals. But Mr. Kumar, how are you?
Well, first, let me tell you, I was getting some anxious moments because, it's been such a long time since we did a talk show. But namaste to all my Indian fans and who are tuning into the show. I'm Mr. Kumar, live from Mumbai. And yeah, it is the season finale, and I gotta, it's like a bittersweet moment for me because we discussed about the Milwaukee Bucks who won the championship after 50 long years.
Yeah.
And we have so much to discuss about for this particular season. And but we're not going to go away anytime soon. We're going to be back, of course, for maybe the draft show and maybe the preseason show. So stay tuned in for a very, very exciting show tonight.
Yes, we have so much to cover. And as Mr. Kumar said, it's going to be a little short and off season, so there's going to be a lot to cover, free agency, the draft, etc. But again, Mr. Kumar, we are going to be covering the NBA Finals today. So let's start off. As Mr. Kumar rightly said, the Bucks win their first championship in 50 years. The last championship was 1971 with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But the Bucks ended up winning in 6 games against the Phoenix Suns, Mr. Kumar. So what were your overall thoughts about the series? What are your takeaways? And what a performance by the Bucks coming back from an 0-2 deficit against the Phoenix Suns, because they look cooked in the water, Mr. Kumar, after Game 2. But what a comeback by the Bucks.
Well, I mean, I think they've done it twice against probably the best opponents that they could probably have. The first one was against the Brooklyn Nets. They were down 2-0 in that series as well. And, they came back against the Phoenix Suns as well. So I think they have a knack for coming back, from deficits. But I think, a lot of people thought that it was the Phoenix Suns series to win.
Yeah.
But I think one person single-handedly basically overpowered the Phoenix team, and that's Giannis. He was phenomenal throughout the series, and we didn't even know if he would actually start the series because he got injured, against the, Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals. There were doubts about whether he would start the series, but he did come back, and I was surprised to see him back in Game 1, and he has been phenomenal throughout the 6 games for the Milwaukee Bucks.
He really was. And once he decided, Mr. Kumar, that he was not going to settle for jump shots, he was going to attack the paint, use his size, use his length, use his athleticism. I loved his game overall. They did a great job of posting him up, getting him in the paint. He did a great job facilitating. So Giannis, what a performance. 2 40-point games in this finals, Game 2 and 3. Then a 50-point game was icing on the cake, Mr. Kumar, to clinch the finals for the Milwaukee Bucks. But also Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton played outstanding. Also, they were great, Robins for Batman. They're not superstars, Mr. Kumar, but they're stars. They're both all-stars, Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday. And I felt like they really got that confidence in the Hawks series, when Giannis was injured, and those guys had to really step up and really, carry the torch, for the Milwaukee Bucks. They both were very clutch, scoring, attacking the basket. Chris Middleton is their closer. But it was a great all-around effort by the Milwaukee Bucks. The role players played a lot better. PJ Tucker, Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton. You can go on and on and on. And I think that was the difference. But, Mr. Kumar, you need a superstar to win. And Giannis was carrying the load for the Bucks and really set the tone for the rest of the series after Game 2.
As you said, yes, you need 5 people to perform. You can't just have one person, scoring 50 points, 60 points. You need a star cast in order to make this movie successful, right? And Drew Holiday and Middleton, although they played in patches, I think they were not really consistent in all 6 games.
No.
But Drew Holiday did a great job defensively, especially on Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Middleton was, of course, he had a couple of superlative games, but he was not really excellent in Game 6, But he had those clutch shots, to overcome the Phoenix Suns team. So, yes, the star cast was there. They're really not superstars. I would say all-star, players. Middleton has been an all-star for 2 consecutive years. So I think they just played the right game at the right time. Although the expectation was that probably Middleton should have, a consistent 25-point game. Drew Holiday should have a consistent 20-point game, on maybe 45, 50% shooting. But, that was not the case for Drew Holiday and Middleton. I think the surprise package was Bobby Portis.
Yeah.
He didn't really play much, I think, in the series against the Hawks. But he did have a much larger role to play, against the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, he didn't play hardly. Yeah, exactly.
And he did his job. I think it was a team effort and especially the absence of DiVincenzo. Pat Connaughton was put into the lineup. I was pretty surprised that Mike Budenholzer also tried Jeff Teague for quite a large amount of minutes. So I never thought he would ever see the court apart from just being on the bench.
I guess he was better than Bryn Forbes, because Bryn Forbes had a great series against the Heat, but he's a defensive liability. I know well as a Spurs fan, he would just, he would be inconsistent in shooting and struggle on defense. But I think it was the Bucks defense. You kind of touched on it, Mr. Kumar. The Bucks defense really ratcheted up after Game 2. The Phoenix Suns, they like to play an old school kind of ball. Pick and roll, high pick and roll. They like to shoot the mid-range instead of shooting the 3. So what the Bucks did was they blitzed the pick and roll and they forced the Suns to shoot threes and get out of their game. Mr. Kumar, there were so many games, we were talking back and forth. There were so many games where we were like, the Suns are jacking up too many threes. Well, that's a result of the Bucks defense. They were taking them away from their mid-range shot. And even when they did try to shoot the mid-range shot, the shot was contested. It was a tough shot, because Devin Booker and Chris Paul lived in that 15 to 18-footer range. So they took the Suns out of their game plan. I think they forced them to be on the perimeter a little bit too much. They didn't use that size advantage. The Suns with DeAndre Ayton, who I call the X factor in this series. I think Mr. Kumar, he only had like one good game, right? Like Game 1, DeAndre Ayton. And after that, he was pretty much like taken out of the series. Dario Saric was a huge loss for the Suns because that eliminated their size, because the Suns did not have enough size to contend with this Bucks front line with Lopez, Giannis, instead of they had to play Frank Kaminsky, who really struggled. So the Suns just had lack of size. They weren't able to get to their game, and that was the result of the Bucks game plan and Bucks preparation in the series.
Yeah, I think one of the key things the Bucks made the adjustment was to attack the paint. Statistically, if you see throughout the 6 games, the Bucks dominated inside the paint. Of course, you would say it's because of Giannis, who scored bulk of his points from the paint. That was the biggest difference, and that's why you didn't even see Brent Forbes in the lineup at all, because the Bucks realized that the best way to counter attack the Phoenix Suns is by dominating the paint. And you had a couple of games where DeAndre Ayton also got into foul trouble. I think it was Game 3. I think it was Game 3 and then Game 6 as well. So that, and of course the absence of Saric, they didn't have any really good backup center to guard the paint. And that's one good thing I thought the Bucks did, because in the previous 2 series against the Nets and against the Hawks, they pretty much relied more on the outside shooting, perimeter shooting. those kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it was really nice to see that the Bucks made the necessary changes in order to win, and win like 4 games in a row in an NBA Finals.
That's hard to do. I don't care who
That's
you are.
yeah, that's really hard to do, and 4
Mhm.
games in a row is no mean feat. So you got to give credit to Coach Budenholzer also in order to make, so that they could make those changes.
Yeah. Shout out to Coach Budenholzer. What a adjustments, what a game plan he had. They use Mr. Kumar. We were saying a lot of the watch party. They were using that jumbo size lineup, in Game 5 and Game 6 with Portis, Lopez, and Giannis. And the Suns just had no, answer. The Bucks were getting a lot of offensive rebounds. They were getting points in the paint, as Mr. Kumar said. They were forcing the Suns into turnovers. You saw Chris Paul. Maybe he was a little injured, Mr. Kumar, but we don't know for sure. They made Chris Paul look uncomfortable. He was mishandling the ball a lot. They were forcing the Suns to look uncomfortable, getting a lot of turnovers, transition points, and that really fueled the Bucks offense. Because the Bucks can score in the half court. I think that was big, but they did not let the Suns get up in that up and down pace. The Suns like to play fast, Mr. Kumar, get in transition, but the Bucks really did a great job of slowing down the series, making this a half court series, and forcing the Suns to execute on the offensive end of the floor, and the Suns could not. Besides Mr. Kumar, besides really Devin Booker, who was the main scoring threat for the Suns in the series after Game 2? Chris Paul, yes, he had a big Game 1 and 2. But he wasn't much of a scoring threat. It was basically Devin Booker or bust. He had to score 40 points, which he did multiple times, because Aiden was struggling, Mikal Bridges was on and off, Jay Crowder, Cameron Johnson. They didn't give the necessary production to help Devin Booker. And the Bucks really forced the Suns to go into isolation ball also, because the Suns love to move the ball around the perimeter. They play like the Spurs style basketball. But the Bucks switching defense forced the Suns to go too much one-on-one and rely too much on Devin Booker, which ultimately hurt the Suns' chances in this finals.
True, but I would also say that Game 5 and 6 were pretty close. I thought the games could have gone either way. It was just a few mishaps by the Phoenix Suns in those dying seconds. In Game 5, especially that block that Giannis had against DeAndre Ayton, and of course that steal in Game 5. I'm sorry, Game 4 and Game 5. I was not saying Game 6. Game 4 and Game 5 were like, it could have gone either way. And Game 4 you had that block. Game 5 you had that Drew Holiday steal. So it just, those 2 games felt like the real finals, because the first 2 games, I thought the Milwaukee Bucks just took it too easy. And of course, Game 6 at home at Milwaukee, you had that whole support behind you. I would have been very surprised if the Bucks, go on to win the finals in Phoenix if it was a Game 7. That would have been the most difficult task to do.
Yeah, because in the history of the NBA, only 4 teams have won a Game 7 on the road in the finals. Of course, LeBron James in 2016 was one of those teams, but they don't have a LeBron James. As good as Giannis is, he's not LeBron James. So yeah, they basically had to win Game 6 at home. The Deer District, Mr. Kumar, 65,000 people, the whole place going crazy. So yeah, the Bucks basically had to win Game 6, and I think they had a little bit nerves early, but then they settled down, and Giannis, he only missed like 1 free throw the whole game, Mr. Kumar. He was like 17 of 18 from the line. So yeah, overall, I think, the timely plays that the Bucks made, as the Drew Holiday steal, the Giannis block, they just made more plays down the stretch and made the winning plays. They were going more for loose balls. They just made the necessary intangible plays that won't show up on the box score, Mr. Kumar, but lead to victory. And I think that's exactly, what the Milwaukee Bucks did. And I wanted to ask you, Mr. Kumar, so Milwaukee, winning, of course, they're a small market team. Now we're in the age of the NBA where stars are going to Miami, Los Angeles, New York. So what does this mean, Mr. Kumar, for small market teams that this Bucks team won the NBA Finals?
Well, I don't know whether it really changes, the narrative for the small market teams. The last time a small market team won was probably the Cleveland Cavaliers, but they had LeBron. And probably before that, you could argue that it would have been the Dallas Mavericks who won in 2011 with Dirk Nowitzki and the other stars. I mean, if you consider Dallas to be a small
And
market,
Spurs 2014.
yeah, I mean, but the Spurs, had become a dynasty by then. I mean, because they had won multiple championships. Yeah, of course, financially they would be considered a small market team, but they had already established, coming into the finals for a long period of time. They'd already
Yeah.
won a few championships, so I think that basically discounts them from that conversation of that small market argument. But I still feel, I mean, it's all about how long these guys can stay healthy, how long these guys can play together. I think, it's another 3-4 years of, good dominant basketball that the Milwaukee Bucks can have. And, but it doesn't really change the scenario for the other small market teams. I think, you lucked out because you got a 15th pick in the first round in Giannis, who developed into a superstar. You got a 29th pick in the second round in Chris Middleton, who played in the G League, and now he's considered to be a superstar. And of course, you traded, a few of your assets to get Drew Holiday, from the New Orleans Pelicans. So I think it's a combination of multiple factors, because you got to have the right personnel, you got to have the right coach. I think there was a lot of talk about Mike Budenholzer, whether he continues to be the coach if the Bucks lose, in the second round or the conference finals. So the stars were aligned for the Milwaukee Bucks. That's what I would say. But I still don't feel that the small market teams, really have too much going for them in order to win championships.
I agree with you, and I agree with pretty much all the points that you make. I think you make some great points on that. Yeah, it doesn't really go much, because it was a great year for the Bucks. They had a great run. So yeah, for the small market teams, it doesn't really do much. It was a great story. Of course, we're going to be telling the story 50 years from now about Giannis. I think it says more about Giannis and this guy that stayed loyal, Mr. Kumar, because he could have went to the Heat, he could have went to the Lakers, he could have went to the Knicks, but he stayed loyal with the team that drafted him in 2013, the skinny kid from Greece, Mr. Kumar. They showed a picture side by side. He was 196 pounds in 2013 when he was drafted, and now what is he, like 240? Something like this.
Yeah, 260 or something. I don't know.
260, excuse me. Yeah, 260. What a story, Mr. Kumar. So I think that says more about hey, in this age where, super teams are a thing, hey, you can stay loyal with the team that drafted you, and you can build something special here in Milwaukee. We'll see if they can win multiple championships, or is it just going to be a one-off, Mr. Kumar? But the Bucks are definitely going to be in contention, because out of the three guys, Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday, they're locked up $481 million locked up in all those three guys. I think they all have multi-year deals, of course. So, this band is going to stay together, Mr. Kumar, but it's just all about health. And, the East is going to be strong next year. You're going to have the Nets, the Sixers, other teams you're going to have to, deal with. But hey, it was a great run by the Bucks. And I want to give them their props, for a great championship run.
Yeah, I would just discount one sentence of yours from this entire thing, that the East is going to become stronger with the Nets and the Sixers and stuff like that. I mean, they were stronger. It's just that, they didn't have, the right energy, or they were just injury prone, and you can't help that. I mean, that happens, in a pretty long NBA season. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of teams who are going to make a lot of changes, and we never know what's going to happen next season. And one good thing for Giannis was that he totally eliminated his shortcomings by playing inside the paint. But you still have to worry about his free throws. You still have to worry about his outside shooting, and you sometimes still have to worry about his shot selection. So I mean, these are some of the things that he may have to address in the next season. But I mean, whatever it is, I think he performed to the fullest extent, and you can have a better performance in the final. So congratulations to Giannis. But let's hope that small market teams learn from these kind of things. And the only other small market team I'm really kicked about is the OKC Thunder, because they have like what 400 picks for the next 10 seasons.
Something like that. They like stashed their picks, Mr. Kumar. They have like the crazy amount of first round picks and second round picks. Let's see, can they create another KD, Russell Westbrook, James Harden situation or not? We'll see. Sam Presti, but yeah, that's the other small market team that maybe has a bright future, Mr. Kumar. We're going to see.
I think they're going to trade a few more players and get like 30 first-round picks in one single year.
That would be crazy. You're going to be seeing, ladies and gentlemen, from now till 2030, you'll be hearing the OKC Thunder a lot in the NBA draft. So get used to it, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see what happens with them, Mr. Kumar. But also, before we further dive into the finals, I wanted to quickly talk about the title favorites for next year, Mr. Kumar. Some of that, the Nets are at plus 225. The Lakers are at plus 400, followed by the Bucks, Warriors, and Suns. So what are your thoughts about this, Mr. Kumar? Are we finally going to see a Lakers-Nets matchup next year in the finals?
Hey, I mean, if the Nets are healthy, they are the team to beat. We just have to see whether, all three of them, Kyrie, Harden, and Durant, how many games do they play during the entire season? And that's the $1 billion question you have for the Nets. I think my top two favorites would be the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets from the East. In the West, again, I think it totally depends what kind of personnel changes the Lakers are going to do. But you saw, that the LeBron James is going to get a year older. AD needs to be healthy throughout the season. The West is, it's something really hard to pick. But considering I'm an emotional guy, I'm going to go with the Lakers.
And I'm going to go with the Nets. Okay, so pretty much I'm hoping whether you get that Lakers-Nets, finals. Also, the Warriors are going to be better next year, Mr. Kumar. The Clippers, the Jazz. The West is going to be stacked next year. We'll see with that. Again, we'll talk about more as the season gets closer. I just wanted to inform you guys about these odds, going forward. So, Mr. Kumar, let's now talk about Giannis's legacy. So Giannis had so many shortcomings, a couple years ago against the Raptors. It's not just Giannis, I want to say his team. They were up 2-0, and then they lost 4 straight. They got gentlemen swept by the Miami Heat last year in the bubble. So, Mr. Kumar, what does this championship say for Giannis's legacy? Because he's won pretty much everything before this championship. He was a 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and now he gets a Finals MVP and a championship. So, how does this impact Giannis's legacy?
Well, he's going to be considered, at the top of the list of people who have played in the NBA all these years. The list is like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell, because as you mentioned, he is a 2-time regular season MVP. He's the Defensive Player of the Year. He's won a championship. He's won a Finals MVP, and all before all at the age of 26.
Yeah.
So so he has a long way to go. I would say the next 5 years is something that Giannis can really dominate. If he really improves on a little bit on the shooting, a little bit on the free throws. I don't think you have a ceiling for him. You can only go upward from here. And if the stars are aligned, I can see him win multiple championships.
Thank you. That was a perfect transition, Mr. Kumar. That was my next question. How many championships can Giannis win? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins more than one because, like I said earlier, they got this money tied up in Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday. And just before I finish on my point, what an amazing accomplishment for Giannis. He's only with Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon to win an MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Finals MVP. So major shout out to Giannis. Before I forget on that the graphic that we're showing, Mr. Kumar. But yeah, they got this money tied up. It seems like, the owner, the GM of the Bucks are all aligned. You could see like, they're all so happy. I think they want to keep Giannis, happy with the Bucks. They'll continue to do the necessary moves to make him happy, surround him with the right role players like the DiVincenzo's, Pat Connaughtons, Bryn Forbes, Bobby Portis. So yeah, he can win multiple championships, Mr. Kumar. He works hard. His work, as Mr. Kumar already said, the stuff that needs to improve on. I think he's going to really work on that this offseason, in a shorter offseason, but he's going to continue to add to his game. And I can see, the Bucks winning multiple championships. And yeah, we asked a poll question saying, is Giannis the best player in the NBA? 67% say yes, 33% say no. Mr. Kumar, are you in the camp that's saying Giannis is now the best player in the NBA?
Not really, because I think one championship, one finals MVP doesn't really qualify as an answer to you becoming the best player in the NBA. And that does not mean I'm still claiming that LeBron James is the best player in the NBA. I mean, he needs to consistently do this. I still think Kevin Durant, ranks a little bit higher in terms of ability-wise, against Giannis. Yes, but today he's the best player because he's won the championships. He's won the finals MVP. But again, you got to roll it back one more season, and you got to see, whether he can still repeat that performance. But he definitely, I think, is trying to get that crown away from whoever you think the best player is, whether it's LeBron James, whether it's Kevin Durant, whether it's Kawhi Leonard. So he's definitely one of those challengers to take away that mantle.
Yeah. Before I go on with my point, I want to give a shout out to Sharma. Thank you for watching the show and for commenting. So again, everybody, if you're watching the show, give us your thoughts. We'd like you to join in the discussion. Put your comments in the chat section below, and they may be featured live on the show. So thank you for watching, Sharma. Before we go, Mr. Kumar, I think that Giannis, yes, he had a great season. Yes, he had a great finals run. Yes, he's well deserving of the championship. But I think Kevin Durant's a little better than him. I think Kevin Durant is still the best player in the NBA. Giannis is a close second. Because I saw with my own eyes, Mr. Kumar, that second round matchup where Durant just carried the Nets in Game 5 and Game 7. If he just had a smaller shoe size, Mr. Kumar, it would be a whole different discussion. He was basically playing 1-on-5. I thought he outplayed Giannis in that second round. Durant just didn't have the help, with the hobbled Harden, who I didn't think he should have played, Mr. Kumar. He was more of a liability than with Kyrie out. Still, Giannis, yes, he won. Yes, he should deserve props for winning. But I think Kevin Durant, just ability-wise, is a little bit better. And just as an overall player, I think he's a little bit better right now than Giannis. But Giannis is a close second, Mr. Kumar.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I told. It's the euphoria right now of winning the championship. And he also comes, I mean, he's a very humble guy, and, he's very soft-spoken. You look at him in, all the interviews and press conferences, he just is so overwhelmed by the entire situation of him winning the championship, winning the MVP. And, he comes from such a, poor, I mean, he came from such difficult circumstances.
Yes.
And, the pinnacle that he has reached now is unprecedented, so it's, I would say, just keep going, Giannis. I mean, you still have a road to improvement. And if you can do that, I think maybe in a couple of years, he could be the best player ever to play the game of basketball.
Yeah, he's on that ceiling, Mr. Kumar. If he continues to improve his game, he continues to win championships with the Milwaukee Bucks, continues to stay loyal, work hard, which he does. I think he has. He's going to be the face of the NBA because LeBron is, getting up there in years. Even Kevin Durant, what is he, like 31, Mr. Kumar? So he only has probably maybe 4 or 5 years left to play. Giannis is 26, entering his prime. He has a great opportunity to. He can be the face of the NBA. And but I think right now, Durant, my rankings right now would probably be Durant as 1, Giannis as 2. But we're probably going to see them in more head-to-head clashes, Mr. Kumar, going forward, because the Bucks and the Nets are probably going to play for more Eastern Conference Finals. So we'll see, who's going to rise up, who's going to play well. So I think that's going to be a discussion for another day, Mr. Kumar. But I think that right now Giannis is on top. He reached the top of the mountain. He talked about his humble beginnings. His parents are Nigerian descent, but they are from Greece, Mr. Kumar, and he talked about how much sacrifice his parents gave and how hard he had to work to get to the top, and it's all paid off for him. You could just tell he was just soaking in the moment. He couldn't believe what was happening, and it happened for him. So Giannis is having the best time of his life right now, and it's well deserved.
And and shout out to all three brothers. I mean, all three have championship rings now. Costas, who plays for the Lakers, he won a championship last season, and Thanasis and Giannis, who play for the Milwaukee Bucks together, they have a championship ring too. So at least there's no bragging rights anymore for Costas Kumpo at the dinner table.
Yeah, no, he definitely did have those bragging rights. They were showing a video last year when the Lakers won. They were picking him up from the Greece airport, and he was just bragging. But now, Thanasis and Giannis, has say, hey, we also won a championship. So yeah, now the race is going to be who can get that second championship, Mr. Kumar. That's going to be now the real bragging rights and race. So yeah, again, congratulations to the Antetokounmpo family, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And it's just a great story, Mr. Kumar. It was a little bit of a different finals. We had the Suns and the Bucks. I don't think anybody would have expected that, but it was still pretty entertaining, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's good for the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because ultimately, I mean, you would want to see new teams, new players, young players. You saw Devin Booker, having a phenomenal series. You're seeing Giannis all in their mid-20s. So I mean, you're just seeing a new generation of players come in, and that's really good for the NBA in the future.
It really is. And just overall, this playoffs, Mr. Kumar, it was really exciting, with the New York Knicks making the playoffs for the first time, how packed Madison Square Garden was, Trae Young, doing his thing in the playoffs, Donovan Mitchell, the Clippers making the conference finals for the first time in their franchise history. So there was a lot of great storylines, in this playoff. The Suns for not making the playoffs for 10 straight years, Mr. Kumar, then making the finals, the Bucks winning the championship for the first time in 50 years. A lot of great storylines, a lot of great action. It was a very exciting NBA playoffs. Mr. Kumar, before we get to Chris Paul, a discussion about him, I want to ask you just a real quick question right now on the spot. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I just want to ask you right now, your gut, Mr. Kumar, will the Bucks repeat as champions next year? Yes or no?
Difficult. I think it's going to be a difficult path. As I said, it's for the Brooklyn Nets to lose. If they're injury prone and they're going to have some of the same problems the next season as well, then I think it's Bucks who will win. So see, I mean, it's 51-49, so it's pretty much 50-50. In terms of whether Bucks are going to win. So I just feel it's going to be a lot more difficult next season. One, because of course maybe the Brooklyn Nets are the challengers, and two, the expectations are going to be much higher.
Yep. No, exactly. Then now there's going to be that expectations that, hey, the Bucks won already. Now let's see what they can do. Create a dynasty, win multiple championships. And I agree with you when saying that the Brooklyn Nets are pretty much the only team that can get in their way, in the Eastern Conference Finals. And if they're healthy, I see the hard time the Bucks beating them. Because the Sixers, Mr. Kumar, most likely they'll trade Ben Simmons. We don't know for sure, but there's going to be Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid, he's injury prone, so something might happen to him. The Hawks, I don't see them getting this far again. I think maybe it was just a little bit of a fluke run. The Knicks, I think they're still a little bit too early, for winning. So there's really the Brooklyn Nets are the only real contenders, in the Eastern Conference. So that should be the Bucks' full focus, just to beat.
I wouldn't discount Miami Heat.
Oh, yeah. The Miami Heat were there. Let's just see what, moves they make in the offseason. I forgot about the Miami Heat, honestly. So, yeah, Mr. Kumar, they made the finals a couple of years ago, so maybe they'll make a little move. Yeah. So, but
I don't, because we don't know what's the situation with Victor Oladipo. Of course, he
yeah.
didn't play because of injury, and if he comes back, they have a formidable team.
Yeah, they have a pretty good team, and so yeah, with Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Bam, they have a great core together. So yeah, they might pose a little bit of problems, but I still think the Bucks are a little bit better. But we'll see. A lot can happen, free agency, draft, etc. Mr. Kumar, before then.
Yep.
All right, you ready to move on? Talk about a little Chris Paul, Mr. Kumar.
Oh yeah, of course. We got to talk about a 36-year-old playing in the finals.
All right, yes, as Mr. Kumar said, Chris Paul is 36 in his 18th year. Unfortunately, he got to his first finals, which was a big accomplishment for him, Mr. Kumar, but unfortunately he lost. So we got to talk about this. What does this mean for Chris Paul's legacy? Because he is one of the best point guards in NBA history. I don't know if he'll be in the upper tier, Mr. Kumar, but how does this finals loss impact Chris Paul's legacy, in your opinion?
Well, I think it would have definitely put a star against his name as somebody who has won a championship. But I think he's going down the road of players like Charles Barkley and others who have been superlative but have never won a championship. And that's the truth, or that's the bitter truth that probably Chris Paul has to accept. We don't know whether he's going to come back. He has a player option for $44 million with the Phoenix Suns. So we don't know whether he's going to, take that option or decline that option, go to some other team. But the legacy is that he's definitely going to be in my top 5 point guard. And I really think he's going to be at least in the top 6 of many people, many NBA fans, because I know there's going to be a lot of debate on those 4, 5, 6, ranked point guards. So it's a difficult choice there, but I think his legacy is that he's going to be a first-round Hall of Famer. But unfortunately, I mean, this was not his time, and I think. But if you consider, this was probably his best opportunity to win a championship.
I think other than those Clippers years, yes, exactly. Because he had Blake Griffin, and so and DeAndre Jordan. But yeah, this is probably was his best time to win a championship. He had a great team. He instilled that culture, a winning attitude. He was a great leader for this Phoenix Suns team. For sure. And it was just, sad for him because he looked at times in the series like an old man. He looked a little washed up, Mr. Kumar. Maybe it was due to injuries. Maybe it was due to age. He's never really stayed healthy during an entire playoffs. Same thing this playoff. So, yeah, I was going for the Suns because I did like, Devin Booker. I did like Chris Paul, and I wanted to see Chris Paul win that championship, Mr. Kumar. But you said something very interesting. You said Chris Paul is in the top 5 all-time point guards. I think he's in the top 10. It's hard to put him, with the likes of, John Stockton, Magic Johnson, Oscar Robertson, Steph Curry, Isaiah Thomas. I think he's within that 6 to the 10 range, But if he did win a championship, Mr. Kumar, he would have been a top 5 for me. He still maybe has an opportunity to, he takes good care of his health. He's gone vegan now, Mr. Kumar. He takes care of his body. He's done it at 2 great places, OKC and now Phoenix. So we'll see, whether he can replicate that same success. He'll have a player option this year, as Mr. Kumar said. There are some rumors that he may go to the New York Knicks, which would be very interesting if he did go there, leading the Phoenix Suns. But Mr. Kumar, do you see Chris Paul in a Suns jersey next year?
I'm 95% sure he's going to be with the Suns.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too, because he was talking about how special of a journey it is, a special relationship he has with DeAndre Ayton, special relationship he has with Devin Booker. Monty Williams and him go back in the day. They were both together with the Pelicans, and now, together they're back reunited with the Suns. So I think he definitely stays, with this Phoenix Suns team. But the real question is, Mr. Kumar, well, first about the poll, will the NBA Finals loss impact Chris Paul's legacy? 51% say yes, 49% say no. But the real question is, Mr. Kumar, can Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns get back to an NBA Finals, or you think it was just a year where, injuries allow them to get through this Western Conference?
Yeah, I don't want to discredit their performance this season. They played absolutely beautiful basketball. I mean, they had a really good coach in Monty Williams, and I think they did everything right in order to make the finals. But can they repeat? They can repeat. They have the ability to repeat. But I think the West is just too stacked up to kind of put the Phoenix Suns right at the top. I would still consider the Lakers, the Clippers, are probably the better off teams on paper, and they probably should make the finals from the West. They have a better chance of making finals from the West than the Phoenix Suns. And the story could have been different if Kawhi Leonard was playing in that Western Conference Finals. The story could have been different even in the first round if AD was healthy. We can talk about a lot of things, but right now, all we can talk about is that that Phoenix Suns, played one of the best basketballs that you could ever play. They've never qualified for the playoffs for almost last 10 years.
They were second seed, Mr. Kumar, in the West.
And they make it up to the finals. Manish Tripathi is asking, will Damian Lillard end up in Lakers? I don't think so. It doesn't happen because, it's very difficult financially to make that work.
Yeah, it would be very difficult financially. And there was questions, Mr. Kumar. Damian Lillard right now is with Team USA. There's reports that he would request a trade, but then he said at a press conference before they left for Tokyo that he will not. That the reports are not true and he will not request a trade. We'll see. I see him next year in a Portland Trailblazers jersey. I think he's going to try it out with Chauncey Billups. There's some teams that are trying to vie for, Damian Lillard. Lakers, one of them, Mr. Kumar. But I don't think he'll end up with the Lakers. It would just be too much financially.
Can I change the question a little bit for Manish Tripathi? Will Damian Lillard leave the Portland Trailblazers? If that's the question, my answer is leaning towards a yes.
And where would he go? Would you say? I
don't really know where he would go. There are like multiple options, but I think whether I just can guess the probability of him leaving the Trailblazers is much higher than him joining the Lakers.
I think I agree with that because, Mr. Kumar, he's tried to stay as loyal as possible. Like you see all the work that he puts in, how great of a player he is. But it has to be frustrating. It has to eat at you that you're continuing to have these first and second round losses in the playoffs. Yes, they did make it to the conference finals a couple years ago, but they got swept by the Warriors without Kevin Durant. Okay, let's see what Manish is saying. Right where he'll end up would have been a better question. So Manish, do you think he'll lead the Portland Trailblazers? I want to hear from you. Put your answer in the chat section. But I think that he just got frustrated a little bit. I don't know if he can win long term, with the Blazers. He wasn't that excited about the coaching change, Mr. Kumar. So he may, he's 31 years old. He may need a fresh start, a place where he can win a championship, because he'll be like the Charles Barkley discussion as one of the all-time greats that hasn't won a championship. I heard some reports that maybe he'll go to the Boston Celtics team, who traded Kemba Walker to the Thunder. So they need a point guard, Mr. Kumar. And he would be a nice pairing with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. There's some other players. So it's a big question, but I'm going to lean towards he's going to leave the Portland Trailblazers.
What if you straight up switch Jamal Murray for Damian Lillard?
Ooh. That would be interesting. That would be actually very interesting. He would add, the Nuggets would be an instant contender, and that would be a win for both sides, Mr. Kumar, because Jamal Murray is a clutch player and he'll do well with the Blazers, and then the Nuggets get Damian Lillard. Manish just says yes for sure. I think, but what do the experts think? I think me and Mr. Kumar are both leaning towards Damian Lillard leaving the Blazers this year.
Yeah, Blazers, and my guess is he could even end up in Philadelphia. It could be a swap for Ben Simmons. Yeah,
he could end up in Philadelphia. There's some things maybe in Miami, if Miami wants to get rid of some of their players. So yeah, there's some other options. We'll see what's going to happen, Mr. Kumar, because that will definitely, Damian Lillard is one of those players where wherever he goes, it'll change the landscape of the conference and the team, because he's that great of a player. But Mr. Kumar, with the Sixers, do you think they would rather prefer? Do you think they're going too much after Lowry though, and maybe not have a chance with Damian Lillard?
I don't know. I think they should pursue Damian Lillard first, and Kyle Lowry is a free agent. You can still sign him. You don't. It's not a trade. Whereas for Damian Lillard, you need to have a trade. You need to give up assets, and maybe Ben Simmons with maybe a player like George Hill or even a Danny Green. Could be one of those. Could be one of those things that could work out for somebody like Damian Lillard. And for Damian Lillard, it could be a change of scenario where you're not really fighting in the West. But you're going to the East, where the number of contenders are like relatively smaller compared to the West.
And he'll have more help, Mr. Kumar, because basically Portland is Damian Lillard or bust. He has to basically carry the team on his shoulders, do everything, shoot, play, make. With the Sixers or other teams, he would have more help. He would have a little bit better players around him, Mr. Kumar. I personally think, if I had to lean, I would probably say the Sixers. I think it would be, like you said earlier, that Ben Simmons, Damian Lillard, a swap with maybe a couple picks and Danny Green included. So I think that's the best scenario. We'll see, Mr. Kumar. But unfortunately for Mr. Kumar, Damian Lillard may not end up with the Los Angeles Lakers. They might get Russell Westbrook instead.
Hey, I don't mind. I don't mind Russell Westbrook. I know sure? I think at least he's better than Dennis Schroeder.
You have a point there for sure. But you're gonna have to. There's gonna be times where you want to pull your hair out. You're gonna have to live with the good and bad of Russell Westbrook, Mr. Kumar.
Yeah, but at least I know that he's gonna probably notch up those triple doubles and stuff. But you're gonna get like 12, 15 assists from him. So if the players are gonna score, I don't mind having a player like Russell Westbrook. And I also feel like a player like LeBron can probably put some sense into him, and maybe he performs a little bit better than what he was doing in all these years.
Yeah, we'll see. And also Bradley Beal, Mr. Kumar, it's another option maybe for the Lakers or for some other teams. I don't know if he's going to be traded or not from the Wizards or not.
I think. Yeah, I know. I don't know. I think I would really love to see DeRozan in the Lakers.
Oh, okay. We'll do that. But who would you get back to this? I don't want Kuzma, Mr. Kumar, as a Spurs fan.
No, I think it would have to be Kuzma. It would have to be Schroeder and maybe THT.
Yeah, I'll take THT and some picks, and we'll see, Mr. Kumar. A lot to go in free agency. Stay tuned, for our offseason episodes.
And then you also signed Kyle Lowry.
No, God, no, we don't need Kyle Lowry. He's a little washed up, Mr. Kumar. I'd rather have DeRozan. I would rather DeRozan stay than Kyle Lowry.
I was talking about the Lakers signing, trading for DeRozan and signing Kyle Lowry through free agency.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see. The Lakers may make some offseason moves, to get better and to help LeBron and Anthony Davis out. There's a lot more to tell in that, Mr. Kumar, and we shall see. But what about the Olympics, Mr. Kumar? The opening ceremonies happened this morning here in the U.S., in Tokyo. A lot of controversy over the games, whether the games should still take place because Tokyo declared a state of emergency there. But albeit, Mr. Kumar, the games are taking place. And let's talk about some Olympic basketball, Mr. Kumar. Team USA, who starts their bid for gold medal Sunday against France. So what do you think about Team USA's chances, Mr. Kumar, of winning that gold medal?
Well, I would still, pick them as favorites, but it's just that, the difference between the teams in terms of ability has really shrunk. So now you have teams like Australia, you have teams like Slovenia, Serbia, even Spain, etc. They're going to be like challenges for the U.S. men's team because it's not like 1992. Yes, they said it was a dream. It was a dream team, but you also got to realize that at that time, the other teams participating in the Olympics, their levels were like really low. You had probably 4 or 5 NBA players representing different teams, but now you have 4 or 5 NBA players in each team. So the Australian lineup, the first, the starters are like Patty Mills, Joe Ingles, Taibule,
Thibault, yeah.
Thibault. So you have a combination, a lot of NBA players, playing for a lot of teams. So that's why it's become difficult in terms of having those blowouts, like 50-point blowouts and 60-point blowouts. And I think the games are going to be much closer, and it is going to be a tough road for the United States.
Yeah, the teams are definitely, the gap is closing, Mr. Kumar. You see the international basketball landscape. It's coming to the NBA. International players such as Giannis, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic completely dominating. So there's so many talented international players right now in the NBA. These international teams, Mr. Kumar, have been together for years. They basically grew up playing basketball together. They've been with a team a long time compared to the U.S. team, where they just threw this team together, Mr. Kumar. So they have a little bit more team chemistry, team continuity. They play a little bit less isolation ball, a little bit more ball movement. But I think the teams to watch out for definitely have to be Spain, because they have the Gasol brothers, Pau and Mark. They had that NBA lottery pick, Usman Garbua. He's going to be an NBA lottery pick this upcoming year. He put his name in the draft. Spain also has Ricky Rubio, Mr. Kumar. So Spain has some dudes. Australia, Mr. Kumar already mentioned the NBA players that they have. They're going to be talented. Slovenia, who snuck into the Olympics after winning that qualifier. They're number 5 in the world, Mr. Kumar. Of course, they have Luka Doncic and Goran Dragic, so there's going to be some teams that are definitely going to be watch out for. France has, Nicolas Batum. It's going to be a tough road. I still question the chemistry, but there's going to be some
France has Nicolas Batum, Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert, yeah.
Nikitina from New York Knicks. I don't know where he
plays
Frank
Ntilikina, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a couple of other players are also from France. So the France also has like 4 players, playing in the NBA from the starting 5.
Yeah, no, exactly. So these teams are going to be legit, Mr. Kumar. I don't know about Team USA's chemistry. Yes, they're going to be getting some reinforcements with Booker, Middleton, and Holiday are leaving today to go to Tokyo. So they're going to get there, Mr. Kumar, literally the day before the game. The Pop says, I don't care. They're still playing. We need those guys. So we'll see. But I think Team USA, yes, they should be the favorites, but it's definitely going to be a lot closer games this year. But if Team USA, real quick, if Team USA does not win the gold, I would have to put my money on Australia, Mr. Kumar.
I feel so too. I feel Australia is a very young and dynamic team, and and Australia beat United States in the World Championships.
In Nigeria,
last World Championships in the quarterfinals. So Australia, it is for me. If not the US, I think it would be great to see Australia-US finals.
Yeah, it would definitely be, 2 high-level teams. And Mr. Kumar, just letting the fans know, we may do a watch party, for the Olympics. So stay tuned for that, putting a little teaser out there, some Olympic basketball watch party. So be sure to stay tuned. Follow us on our social media channels on Twitter and Instagram at Patel and Kumar. But Mr. Kumar, Indian basketball fans, is it time for our favorite section?
Yeah, we got to go to our favorite section. But before that...
Yeah.
We just have to review our preseason pickings.
Yes.
And compare it to what happened, during the season, of course. So we're just going to have a little bit of a banter before we go on to the Indian Tadka section.
Yes.
So let's have it. So let's have the East. Who we picked to qualify for the playoffs. Of course, the rankings don't really matter. We're just looking at the total 8 teams that qualified for the playoffs for the East and the West. So the left is, of course, Patel's pick, and the right is Kumar's pick. So, of course, I had Toronto Raptors making it, and you had them too. And I think we got it. It was a little bit difficult to kind of pick just the 8 because, again, it was the play-in tournament. So the 8th ranked, the 7th and 8th ranked team were decided through the play-in and stuff. But, I just got 7 right and you got 6. So, that's what the story is.
Yeah, we pretty much had the same teams. Besides the Indiana Pacers, I thought they're gonna have a great team with Turner, Malcolm Brogdon, but unfortunately, they didn't live up to those expectations. They had a new coach, but pretty much we got the order of the Eastern Conference right. And of course, we thought the Toronto Raptors, but they had more of a rebuilding year, Mr. Kumar. But it looks like majority of it, we did agree on it. So that was pretty good for the Eastern Conference. Then the Western Conference, again, these are our preseason picks. So this was before the season. We ranked the teams. And after we show the standings, we're going to show the playoffs of how we graded the first, second round, third round, and then the finals, Mr. Kumar. But on the Western Conference side, pretty much we said the Lakers, Clippers, all the basic teams. We both picked the Warriors because we thought they would bounce back, but unfortunately, Klay Thompson was out for the entire season, so we didn't see that coming. Mr. Kumar said the Pelicans, which that was an interesting pick because we with Zion Williamson and they had that young crew, so they were close, Mr. Kumar, but they didn't unfortunately make the playoffs. And then of course we got the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had a really big doubt about Dallas Mavericks at the start of the season, especially with Porzingis.
Oh yeah, you did.
And stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't have Dallas in my list. So I mean that's so New Orleans Pelicans, of course, gets pretty much substituted by Dallas, and we both got the Golden State Warriors wrong. I mean, of course, they lost in that play-in tournament against the Lakers for the 7th, 8th, and of course with the Memphis Grizzlies for that 8th ranked spot. But that's how the story goes.
Yeah. This is all fluid, Mr. Kumar. Things can change year to year. But that was surprising you didn't pick the Dallas Mavericks. I bet you're not gonna make that same mistake again next year, Mr. Kumar. But that's the first team you're gonna include in the playoffs.
Well, let's see. I don't know if Porzingis is going to play or is he going to get traded because apparently he doesn't like Luka Doncic.
Exactly. They have some chemistry issues there.
So okay, let's look at the MVP results. What did we choose?
And then the playoff.
Then the conference finals and stuff. But I think we both got the MVP totally wrong. I don't think in our wildest dreams we thought that Nikola Jokic would probably get the MVP. Both had huge expectations from Anthony Davis, but he wasn't really the player that he was supposed to be. Well, I mean, I don't know why Kumar didn't pick LeBron James. That's surprising.
Yeah, the Patel picked him, and I'm a huge LeBron fan. Yeah, I picked 2 Lakers, Mr. Kumar, and then I thought Luka Doncic.
Yeah, and I don't know whether we got switched. I mean, you picked.
Yeah, you picked Kevin Durant. Exactly. Maybe this picks was switched, Mr. Kumar. But then I picked Luka Doncic, who, Mr. Kumar, that he was the odds-on favorite this year to win the MVP. The odds maker said it was going to be Luka Doncic, so I got caught up in the hype a little bit too much, but we'll see. Again, it was Nikola Jokic, well-deserving for the MVP. But now let's look at playoffs, Mr. Kumar, starting with, I believe, the conference finals in the finals.
Yeah. We just picked about conference finals and the finals and the championship. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to look at that. This was again before the NBA playoffs. And this is
we picked this right at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, the beginning of the season, exactly. So for the conference finals on the Eastern Conference side, we both said the Bucks and the Nets. We both got the Bucks part of it right, Mr. Kumar, but we got the Nets wrong. We got a round too early. They played in the second round instead of the conference finals. So a round too early for us.
But if you really see, that was the conference finals, right? I mean, I know that ranking-wise, I mean, you had them playing in the second round, but for me, it just felt like it was the conference finals.
Yeah, whoever was going to win, you felt like that series was going to win the championship. And the Bucks, won that series, and they ended up hosting the trophy. And the Western Conference side, we both picked the Lakers and the Clippers. Oddly enough, Mr. Kumar, our wildest dreams, we did not think we were going to get the Clippers side right and the Lakers side wrong. But, hey, we got it reversed. So we picked the Clippers, who made their first conference finals in NBA history.
Yeah, I mean, they had a huge struggle coming into the Western Conference Finals, but they did it. It was a struggling series against Mavericks, struggling series against the Utah Jazz, and then finally, of course, they couldn't overcome the Phoenix Suns. And of course, you got the finals totally mixed up because none of those teams could really make out from the first round for the Lakers and the second round for the Nets. But lucky for me, I did pick the Bucks to win to come to the finals.
Yeah, I picked the Bucks to come to the finals last year. Mr. Kumar, so I was a year or two early. But yeah, again, Mr. Kumar said the Lakers and the Bucks, so we got the Bucks part right. And I was for the hyped matchup, the Lakers and the Nets, but unfortunately that did not happen. And of course, our champions, we both got wrong. I said the Nets. Mr. Kumar said the Lakers. So that was just a little fun. We wanted to have Mr. Kumar showing our preseason.
No, but we got to see the final tally now.
Oh, the final tally. Okay. Yes, Mr. Kumar got the edge a little bit in his predictions. So congratulations, Mr. Kumar.
I just got one thing right. And that was the Bucks. So otherwise we pretty much have become really good experts now in terms of choosing our winners and losers. But the only thing that took me over to that 15-10 was the Bucks coming to the finals.
Yeah, the Bucks, again, like I said, I got it a year or two early, Mr. Kumar, so I wish it was switched, but hey, the Bucks ended up doing it this year instead of last year.
Yeah, so it's a great improvement for Mr. Patel from previous season, because the previous season, I think I really kicked his ass in terms of the scores.
Whoa, Mr. Kumar! I thought the Bucks, the Bucks disappointed me last year. I had the predictions right, just the teams disappointed. They didn't do their thing this year. I was more accurate, Mr. Kumar. And it showed. Next year, I will get you, Mr. Kumar, again. But that was a little fun. Our preseason predictions is always fun in our season finale episode to show that. And we are here, Mr. Kumar, at the end of the season. So now it's time for our favorite section, Mr. Kumar.
Yeah, why don't you introduce it as the spiciest section?
I see it. We are here with the spiciest segment on YouTube. Indian basketball fans, we have some news for you. And I'll let Mr. Kumar get started with the news. Go ahead, Mr. Kumar.
Well, it's not really promising news, unfortunately, because of the COVID situation. We've had a lot of changes to the FIBA Asia schedules. Of course, the qualifiers were going to be played in Jakarta, Indonesia, next month. But that gets canceled. And of course, the FIBA Asia Women's was supposed to be hosted by India, and now that has been shifted out of India to Amman, Jordan. So that's kind of a bummer for the Indian team who were preparing for to qualify for that FIBA Asia Cup, the men's team.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, Mr. Kumar. But with the COVID situation, it makes it really tough. So we hope everybody continues to stay healthy and safe, and best of luck to India, in these tournaments, and we'll see what happens, Mr. Kumar.
Yeah, and hopefully, the COVID situation, improves in India, and we are able to get back to normal sporting action in India. Hopefully, towards the end of the year, we may be probably able to see some national championships for different age groups and the men, women, etc. But right now, I think we are all geared up to cheer for Team India in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Of course, they're not playing in basketball. I think I don't know if even my daughter is going to see Team India basketball team play in the Olympics, but maybe in the 3-on-3 they can, because 3-on-3 is the new sport which is been inducted into the Olympics from this Olympics in Tokyo. So the 3-on-3 teams can probably make it, but we're going to be rooting for.
And I'm excited to see that 3-on-3 should be very exciting. It will be a great Olympic sport, Mr. Kumar. But go ahead.
Yeah. So Team India and all the other sports.
Go Team India!
Hockey, athletics, all the other sports they're participating. All the very best to all the athletes who are right now in Tokyo. And let's hope that India comes with, a big medal haul from Tokyo.
Yeah, best of luck to the Indian athletes. Continue to stay safe in Tokyo. Best of luck. We'll be cheering for you, and we're excited just to watch this Olympics, Mr. Kumar, just in general.
Yes, and thank you for being with us this entire season. It was a fantastic season. Not a COVID-ridden season in terms of NBA, but a COVID-ridden season in terms of India and other places. But hope everybody is safe. Hope everybody takes precautions. But do subscribe and follow us on our YouTube channels, the Ekalavyas YouTube channel and the Patel Pick and Roll Sports YouTube channel. And you got to also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Patel and Kumar.
Yes, thank you everybody so much for watching. It was a great NBA season. Thank you. We hope everybody enjoyed. Thank you for all your support in this season too. We're 2 seasons down, Mr. Kumar, of the Patel and Kumar show, and still going strong. We hope for more success, down the road, and we'll keep you guys updated because we're going to be doing some special edition episodes of the off season. So be sure, like Mr. Kumar said, to follow us on our social media because we will keep you updated when our next episode will be. And yeah, watch out for the next episode, watch party, much more content coming out for Patel and Kumar. But until then, Mr. Kumar, we're signing out. Peace. Milwaukee Bucks, NBA champions.
Lakers are going to win the championship.
Brooklyn Nets.